Ginger on Wheels here. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Today we're going to be testing out this all-new Varla Eagle One 2.0. This is a very refreshed scooter from last year's Varla Eagle One. It's got a whole bunch of new components, so let's roll the intro and I'll do a little ride video and tell you all about this brand new scoot.
Okay, before we start, I need to tell you that after I filmed this video, I asked Varla about discounts and they gave me a screamin' deal. If you're one of the first 6 customers to use the code GINGER200, they'll give you $200 off the Varla Eagle One 2.0. But if you miss out on that, the code GINGER60 will still get you $60 off.
All right, so let's talk Varla Eagle One. Now this is not to be mistaken with the Varla Eagle One Pro, which we have another review video out on. I'll link that above now. This is the Varla Eagle One, which last year was essentially just a rebranded version of the 010X. This is a whole new design of scooter, despite it sharing a similar name. The only actual similarities between the Varla Eagle One and the Varla Eagle One 2.0 are the drivetrain. But as you can see, the scooter itself looks very, very different. And it feels very different to ride too. The bars are a lot taller, the deck is a tiny bit shorter, and the footplate in the back has a really weird design and angle to it. I'm not sure I'll be able to ever get used to it. So we are on our way to the post office to drop off some packages, but before we get too far into the ride, I'm gonna stop and we're gonna do like a walk around of the scooter so I can show you all the new components and stuff. All right, here it is. This is the new Varla Eagle One 2.0. You can see it looks a lot like a mini version of the Varla Eagle One Pro. It's got the same sort of rigid, like square design in this front and rear areas here, and shares very similar swing arms and that little latch nut mechanism as well. But let's go over the scooter, all the different components from top to bottom. So we have handlebars, and they are 710 millimeters long. These are very wide bars. The only scooter that comes with bars this wide that I know of is the GT Pro, and a lot of people will update their V-set handlebars to be this wide. So I guess you got a pre-updated handlebars on here. One thing I'm not a huge fan of though is that the grips, they're pretty small in diameter and they're just circles. There's no real contour for your hand or anything. It's just very basic grip there. It does have these Zoom hydraulic brakes that we see on most electric scooters, front and back, 160 millimeter rotors. You can see this is our little control area here. This is the power, plus, minus, and lights button. We can hold the light button and we turn on a nice big headlight up here, and we can hold the minus button and that actually turns on ambient lights that the scooter has along the bottom here. And you can click the lights button. You can go through different light settings. That's a pretty seizure-tastic right there. But anyway, has that cool feature. The headlight too, I did ride around at night already and it's got a very decent headlight, but I still recommend updating your headlights with the PEVfirelight.com. Throw one right here, and you will have unstoppable headlight power. But this thing is decent in a pinch. You can see the cable management here. We've got some nice tucked away cables through the length of the stem. I don't know why they bothered going through the swing arm there, but they did. And the folding mechanism is pretty straightforward. You unscrew this thing. This piece comes all the way out, and then the safety pin comes out, and the bars will just tumble right on down. And once the bars are down, we have this actual clip, and the bars will clip and stay in place on the folding mechanism here, so you can actually pick the scooter up. But it does come in at a whopping 86 pounds, so it might not be easy for everyone to pick up, and that is another difference between this one and the Varla Eagle One, the first version. It weighs 5 pounds more. Now, we have 10-inch tires here, and it's a similar grip pattern that we're used to seeing on a lot of tires, except they seem a little more flat on the top. They're a little wider. I think I read that they were 90 mils wide. They're not the same width as the normal 10-inch tires. They feel a little bit beefier. So this would be good for riding a little bit of off-roading or some wet conditions. Looks like it's got a water wicking design in the tires here with some water tread on the sides. So these are very well designed hybrid tires. I like those. Now the spring suspension, I'm not sure what the coil is rated to in here. This just says V10F at the top. It feels really stiff though. I want to say 2,000 pound springs, and it does have coil springs in the front and back. I'm 225-ish pounds, and when I bounce on this thing, I can't bottom it out. So very strong, stiff suspension. It's not going to be the most pillowy ride, but it'll do really well off-road, I bet. Or if you hit fat potholes going really fast. So one thing I don't really like about this, and it shares it with the Varla Eagle One Pro, is the aesthetics. This little thing right here that looks really square, and then this piece in the back that's really square, just sort of looks like this is a little cavern to put your feet in. I like it when it looks more fluid. But I will say, I like the fact that the charging ports are on the top of the scooter as opposed to the bottom, and they're not on the top where they're flat like the V-set. because there's always the possibility of you accidentally leaving the charge cap open, water gets in, you short out the scooter. But on this one, it's gonna be a lot harder for water to get in, and the charge ports are still on top. And coming to the back here, another little complaint is I don't like how steep this area is. I always use these rear pieces to brace my foot against for when we're doing high-speed accelerations and stuff. But this piece right here is a little too steep of an angle, and it's a little uncomfortable on my foot. I'm noticing that my foot just presses a lot on this curve piece and not so much in the back or right here. So I wish this were more flat and level like the V-Set or the Kukirin G3 Pro. It does have sine wave controllers. They're 25 amps, but the programming in the sine waveness is not that great on this scooter. It feels really weird, and I'll get to that when we do the ride portion. As you can see here, the rear fender is extended. I like that, and I've got my little license plate here, but this will be really good for extra water wicking. Most scooters, the fenders stop right here, and they don't actually wick the water. So I don't know if they added this little license plate extension piece just so we could put license plates, or if it's just to deflect water, but either way, it actually is gonna deflect rain now, so I like that. I'm always complaining about fenders and their ability to wick water, but this is a good one. Now this screen here, we have seen this one before. It's the same one on the Varla Pegasus. It's got your dual motor icon. This is our power readout and percentage. That is very inaccurate. I don't know how to make that more accurate, or if we even can. It's got 5 PAS modes, which are the speed modes. It stands for pedal assist modes, because this is an e-bike display. They just recycled it. And we've got our odometer here and this little tag thing, which means we can use NFC keys to start the scooter. You can take these, put them in your pocket, and it acts as a key, so you can lock the display. No one can ride it unless you've got that key. Okay, anyway, that's enough for our short little walk around. Let's go ahead and hop on the scooter and see how she rides. All right, we're gonna hop back on this thing and get to riding, because we have got the UPS store to get to before they close. Okay, so we're out riding this thing now. Let's test some off-road abilities real quick. 2 1,000 watt motors. Got a nice decent amount of pull here in the deep bark. Usually a lot of scooters just slow down like 10 miles per hour in this stuff. It's not bad. The bars are a little tall for comfortable off-roading, but it has enough power to do what you need it to do, definitely. It's only a 52 volt nominal battery, but it feels an awful lot like a 60 volt. It's a really torquey. Man, it's just got the Zoom brakes on it, the hydraulics. It just feels like it has so much more stopping power than I'm used to. It's crazy. And I think with this, we're in speed mode 5 right now. I'm pretty sure our top speed is 34 miles per hour. That's what it was earlier. We don't have full battery anymore, so I can't accurately test, but I'll tell you, it's around 34 miles an hour. I think we're gonna take this thing off-road a little bit. I really like the hybrid off-road tires and the amount of torque this thing has. I'm really not a huge fan of this throttle at all. There's like an enormous amount of dead space in it. Check this out. Watch how long it takes before I can pull the throttle and then the motors kick on. Nothing, nothing, still nothing. That whole area is just dead space. Still, this whole area is dead space. Nothing happens. They kick on right there. Right there they kick on. So all the way to here, that does nothing. And then from here to here. So yeah, it's about 30% dead space. Major bummer for this throttle. And the bars, you see how the bars kind of swoop up like this in the smiley face shape? I actually measured them earlier, and they're the tallest handlebars of any scooter I've got at my house in my fleet. And mostly I think due to the fact that it has this big smiley face bar, but they're 42.5 inches tall. And the closest was the V-Set at 42 inches, and the rest of them are sub 40. But pretty surprising, very tall bars, which makes it hard to off-road. And if this thing were a 40 mile per hour scooter, I would say they're actually too tall, because when you need to get down into the crouching position for super fast speeds, then tall bars are not ideal at all. That's why the Ryan scooters have such short bars, because they're so fast, you're expected to be in like a crouch racing position. When you're in that sort of position, you need short bars. Tall bars are no bueno. All right, we're in speed mode 5 right now. All right, I'm flooring it. This is speed mode 5, dual motor mode. It's like 56% battery right now, and we're going 32 miles an hour. There's no rebound adjustment on these shocks, so they slam back into place pretty quickly, pretty abruptly, and harshly. But the compression is actually really nice. They do absorb bumps really well, especially at higher speeds. Yeah, what kind of scooter is this in front of us? Looks like a 010X, which is the same thing as the Varla Eagle 1. So he has the Generation 1, and I have the Generation 2. I wonder if his is a Varla. That'd be so weird. Let's check. Is that a Varla?
Yeah.
Cool. I've got the Varla, the 2.0.
That was a while back. That's cool.
Yeah, I saw you.
My headset. Hang on.
That's so funny.
That's a Pro, or is that a?
No, this is the Varla Eagle 1 2.0. It's the second generation of that scooter.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Oh, okay. You don't do YouTube videos, do you?
I do. That's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, you're kidding. I've
Yeah.
seen you on there. I knew you were around here because I was scootering on one of the paths you were on. I was like, okay, this looks really familiar.
Yeah, lots of people recognize the area when I ride around.
Oh, cool.
Ginger on Wheels was the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's it. So
I'm testing this one out for YouTube right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
It does. It looks pretty sweet. I like the blue.
Yeah.
Well done. Well, I gotta get riding. I'm finishing the video before the sun goes down.
I'll watch for it. It's cool to meet you.
Cool. Yeah, you too.
All right.
See you around.
See ya.
Well, that was fun. We met a fellow scooterer. He knows the Ginger on Wheels channel. He had the Generation 1 version of this scooter. What are the odds? Such a small world. The top speed has seriously reduced down. We're down to, well, I guess it still goes 32. It went 34 though out of the box with me on it. And top speed free spin surprisingly was 36, even though it's advertised as a 40-mile-per-hour scooter. And I did go into the P settings and adjusted the P setting to get maximum speed out of it. They sent out a little email that said, hey, you gotta change P8 to 80 or P6 to 80 or something like that. And I also adjusted the acceleration speed. Out of the box, it was at speed mode 1 for acceleration, and it was just painfully slow. So I switched it to speed mode 3 out of 5, or acceleration mode 3 out of 5, and now it is much zippier off the line. Anyway, we're gonna go to a little off-road section and test the off-roading abilities of this bad boy. I like these tires. They seem like they have a good amount of grip for off-road, but they're doing great right now, and they're nice and quiet right now too. They're not making that like chainsaw noise that the full off-road tires make. And you can tell that's probably pretty good for efficiency too. And I will say, unlike the Varla Eagle and the Varla Pegasus, the steering is hard to turn. It's not the same feeling. This is much more like a steering damper. It is really hard to lock in a speed other than full speed with this throttle. There's such a huge dead zone, and it just feels really like on or off and jerky. Despite having sine wave controllers, I'm learning more and more the more scooters I test with sine wave that it really has a lot to do with how the controllers are programmed. It's like the fact that they're sine wave has very little to do with it. Like VSET, for example, does not have sine wave controllers, but it feels a lot like a perfect acceleration curve. So I think it has more to do with the programming than it does, you know, sine wave or not, which is pretty counterintuitive and really not what we thought last year. All right, here's our little off-roady section. Let's test, see how we do. Oh, we can peel out the front tire. This is kind of loose gravel. I'd be afraid to turn too sharp on this. Get the scooter sliding out. Brakes work well. It seems like it handles pretty dang well with these tires. Yeah, not bad at all. Got a little jump there. Suspension holding up totally fine. Ooh, accidentally skidded out the front tire trying to go around that corner. Wrong brake lever. The rear brake is on the right, for the record. Let's go through this little section now. This one's a little bit more technical. Yeah, these taller bars are not ideal for off-roading, but they're quite comfy cruising. Though, the scooter does not really have a cruising battery. It's only 20 amp hours. Probably gets you about 15 miles of range in the higher speed, maybe 10, for me anyways. If you're lighter, like 170 pounds or so, you could probably get, you know, 20 miles. But don't expect that. Ooh, those bumps were pretty harsh still. This is nice. You can ride it one-handed pretty easily with this, the steering. It feels a lot more like a damper. Let me explain how a little bit. So with the Varla Pegasus and the Varla Eagle 1 Pro, the bars were hard to turn like this, but when you pushed them, it felt like they were pushing up against a piece of rubber almost, and you'd push and then they would kind of like bounce back. Like you'd have to push and then push it past the little resistance in the rubber to get the bars moving. And if you didn't do that, the bars would kind of bounce back and it would be like, you push and let go and it would go that way. But with these ones, it's hard to turn, but it stays exactly where you push it. It doesn't bounce back at all. So you're not fighting against anything like you are with the Varla Pegasus or the Varla Eagle 1 Pro. I really like this steering mechanism the most out of any of their scooters, definitely. I like the throttle the least though. That dead zone is ridiculous. I'm hoping it's like the Cabo Wolf King GT Pro where we can just splice on a third-party throttle and get rid of that entirely. I'm also noticing with this 20 amp hour battery, if you're riding around at full speed, there is quite a bit of voltage sag. You're gonna notice about 25% decrease in battery between when you're stopped and when you're riding at full speed. So right now I'm at 75% battery when the scooter stopped, and when I'm flooring it, it's down to like 49% battery. So 25% drop in battery, which means if you're riding around at 25% battery when you're stopped and then you floor it, if the battery goes down to 0, you'll hit the low voltage cutoff and the scooter will turn off until you plug it back into the charger, despite you having 25% battery left. So when you're down that low in the battery charge range, you need to really crutch the battery and go a lot slower so that you don't stress the battery down to that voltage cutoff. A little bit of battery knowledge there. Let's hit the speed bump. Yeah, it's pretty harsh. Another thing I'm noticing is that this little clip is kind of vibrating a lot along with the keys, which, you know, the keys I can get rid of that are bolted on right here. But this clip is clanking away when I ride a lot. That's for the clasp when the bars fold. So I think you need a zip tie or a little Velcro rubber band that goes around here. That'd be nice. Let's turn on my ambient lights. The sun's starting to go down. Yeah, I like the full seizure mode. I'm gonna keep it on that. And maybe I'll turn on my firelight too, just so cars can see us. All right, Varla Eagle 1 2.0. Kind of a weird name, Varla Eagle 1.2. 1.2, 1.2, copy. Do you copy? And stop. Wow. Those are pretty, those are nice brakes. I wish all scooters had that kind of stopping power. And in case you haven't noticed, this phone is holding on here rock solid. And I'll link this phone holder in the description. Actually, you can find this phone holder in my Amazon store. I've got one of those. You can go to amazon.com/shop/ginger on wheels. And you can see links to all the things that I use while I ride, including, but not limited to, this cell phone holder. Oh, wow, almost crashed. All right, here's some more off-road. This is one of my more favorite sections, but the sun is directly in my eyeballs. Perfect. Yeah, it is doing a great job of really like blinding me. I'd say this scooter does well off-road up to about 25 miles an hour, and then it gets a bit sketchy with the suspension. It really just needs spongier suspension to go off-road that quickly. It just gets too hectic, it's too crazy. Our battery's down to 36%. I better turn around and go home. Our top speed is also down to like 29 miles per hour. Yeah. You know, I was watching RK9's ride review video of his Varla Eagle 1 2.0. And he has done a lot of videos on the Varla Eagle 1, and he says that the 2.0 is going to be a good contender for that scooter. I don't know, I feel like they ride completely differently. The suspension's way harder, the rear foot plate is a lot more boxy and rigid, the handlebars are taller, the grips are smaller, the acceleration curve is different. I don't remember there being a huge dead spot in the throttle on the other one. It shares the same name, has the same motor and battery size roughly, but that's about where the similarities end. It's pretty different in every other aspect. It is a lot like a Varla Eagle 1 Pro. It's just a little baby one. It does have regenerative braking, I'm noticing. I turned it on in the P settings and I do feel it. It's very light and it comes on immediately when you hit the brakes. There's no delay in the electronic braking. That's nice. E-brake engages right when you hit the brakes, right along with the disc. So it's very seamless and fluid. I do like that. That's a function of the controllers. The acceleration is gonna have no problem getting you up any hill. I'm 220 pounds and I'm pretty confident this thing will make it up any hill around here, even with low battery. 2 1,000 watt motors is plenty for hill climbing. Overall, I think this thing's pretty solid. I mean, you really got to spend some time and dial in the acceleration and top speed settings, or the throttle might feel kind of jerky depending on how you want to ride. But if you're okay with a stiff suspension scooter with tall handlebars, and you just want a nice rigid commuter or a hardy off-roader, I would consider this thing definitely. You'd have to do some real thinking though and compare this thing to something like the Kukirin G3 Pro. It's a couple $100 cheaper and has roughly the same spec, but this thing is different in a few ways, like, you know, just the headlight, the display, sine wave, all that stuff. So this is a really steep hill right here. I'm in speed mode 5 right now, accelerating up this hill. Yeah, no problem. This is a steep hill too. Top speed 16 miles per hour. To turn it into dual motor mode, you just hold the plus button right here on the left hand side. You hold that plus button and then this little green gear icon will appear on the screen, and that's dual motor mode. You hold it again, it goes away, you're in single motor mode. And when you're in single, you just have the rear motor, and when you're in dual motor, you obviously have both. The e-brake gets progressively stronger as you're going faster and faster. That's very new to any scooter. I haven't experienced that yet. Normally it's just very on or off depending on which mode you have the e-brake in. This one is variable depending on how fast you're going and which mode you're in. Interesting e-brake system on this thing. I like it. I imagine that's so you don't blow the controllers, the regenerative braking ability of the controllers. Hey, there he is again. He's just going for a nice scooter ride on his Varla too. I like the amount of deck space on this thing. It looks shorter to me for some reason because it's so square and bulky, but it actually is just as long as the Varla and like the 9bot and stuff from here to here. It's just as long. For some reason in my head, when I look at the side profile of it, I see this bulky front section and it just makes this rear section look smaller, but it's actually the same size as the other scooters. And that voltage sag is real. We were down to like 36% battery and now we're at 66%, sagging down 30%. I really like this scooter as long as you don't need anything that'll get you over 20 miles at high speed. This is a nice scooter, especially for taller people. I really like this scooter for taller people because the handlebars are so dang tall and wide. This is the only scooter other than the GT Pro that has bars this wide, and it has the tallest bars of any scooter in the lineup. So it's a great scooter for taller riders, and taller riders are usually heavier, and this thing has also got the power to back it up. Yeah, pretty nice. The stiff suspension, I forgot. I hadn't really tested it out until now, but that stiff suspension really adds to the handling. It's got really good handling. One thing I noticed too that Cabo has a hard time with, Varla seems to have managed here, the brake pads actually grip with the whole entirety of the brake pad on all of the caliper. With Cabo, it only grips like the very tip of the brake caliper. It's super annoying. That's why this thing has so much stopping power. The brake pads properly grip the rotor. Thank you, Varla. They fixed it. All right, everyone, that's gonna sum up my first ride on the Varla Eagle One 2.0. I really do like this scooter. The only complaint I've got with it is the serious dead spot in the throttle. There's like a 30% dead zone for some reason. But other than that, it's a really well-built scooter. It's that super rigid. I like the tall, wide handlebars. It's really good for taller riders. It's got plenty of power. 35 miles per hour is plenty for most people. It's got that. It's got a little bit on the smaller side of a battery, and it doesn't come with very fast chargers. So maybe that's another small downside. But other than that, it's hard to find things to pick and complain about on this thing. I like the extended mudguard, the ambient lighting, the brake lights and headlights are very easily seen on the front and back and sides. The folding mechanism is easy to lock into place, and it's extremely sturdy, and it's really easy to take down too. You can just pop it right down in like 30 seconds. It's got the sine wave controllers with the little TFT display here. It's very nice. The brakes, I love how they redesigned the brakes. They actually grip the full rotor now with the full brake pad. So they've got really excellent brakes on this thing. And overall, just a really nice scooter. Plus, I really like it in blue. I think this is one of my favorite looking scooters. But anyway, if there's any relevant sales or discount codes, I'll put them in the description below, and you can get all the Ginger on Wheels discounts if you're interested in buying one. But thanks again for watching another video, and I'll catch you for the next one.
So I reached out to Varla to get some codes for you, and if you use the code GINGER200, the first 6 customers get $200 off, and the code GINGER60 will get everyone else $60 off a scooter, or if you buy 2, you can use the code GINGER160 and get $160 off. Okay, that's all I've got for you guys today. I'll see you for the next video.